Hello, World Wide Web. I'm Dr. Shado, the internet personality with the best hair. Good. It's finally over. Don't get me wrong, I really enjoyed the summer of the Planet of the Apes and had a lot of fun, but it's good to know that in the coming weeks I won't have to worry about apes or ape sex anymore. So, I think I'll be reviewing one of the classics. Bride of the Gorilla. Harkening back to 1951, Bride of the Gorilla was written and directed by Kurt Siodmak, the writer behind the 1941 classic The Wolfman. A lot of parallels can be drawn between the two movies, but there are more differences than just what creature the man transforms into. Such as the fact that The Wolfman was directed by George Wagner, a very skilled director that would go on to direct tons of movies to Kurt's 9. Well, let's see if there's a silver lining to this silver screen, or if I too have been cursed with apes. This is Bride of the Gorilla. We open up to an indoor set made up to look like a jungle, observing a slew of tame wild animals before an ominous narration.
Something that has haunted the world for millions of years rose out of that verdant labyrinth. Let me tell you how the jungle itself took the law into its own hands.
Yes, please do, because I can't figure out what the fuck that's supposed to mean. A fade brings us to the main story, and to Barbara Payton playing Dina Van Gelder, dancing. Oh dear, moving her hips and showing her ankles to the camera. Have you no shame, 1950s? Soon we meet Barney Chavez, played by Raymond Burr, who sparks up a conversation with her about the good old days.
Rubber's going up in price every day. I can't get enough workmen. When I do, they run away to go into business for themselves. Oh, when they had slaves.
Oh, that poor man doesn't have slaves anymore. Let's feel sorry for him. What? But he's using this to wax poetic to Dina, telling her that in the jungle she's trapped, so naturally she should abandon her husband and run off with him.
My life is here with my husband. After all, he did offer to share his name and his home with me.
You're confusing gratitude with love, Mrs. Van Gelder. There are other things much more important. A woman wants to be loved.
And she doesn't realize this unless you tell her. 50s. Furthermore, her husband walks in and isn't too happy with Barney.
I was looking for you, Barney. You should have been at the warehouse.
The heat got me down, Mr. Van Gelder.
There was an accident, Barney. A man got hurt.
They always get hurt. That's the chance they take.
This one died. Would have died if you'd been there.
I can't be in two places at the same time.
Considering you were supposed to be looking after the workers and not hitting on his wife, I don't really think that's a very good excuse. But never mind that whole death thing. Everyone's got to sit down for dinner so Mr. Van Gelder can read from the Foreshadower's Bible.
The heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can know it? I, the Lord, search the heart. I try the reins, even to give every man according to his ways, and according to the fruit of his doings.
And now that all that's out of the way, Van Gelder wastes no time bringing up how Barney has been boning one of the servant's daughters.
You know about the complaint of that worker and his daughter?
It's my own business, Mr. Van Gelder.
You're living in my house. I demand that you conduct yourself accordingly. You've not done so. You can pick up your pay and leave.
It's all right with me.
What's the matter? What are you mad at Barney for?
So he screws the servant's daughter, gets the employees killed, hits on his boss's wife, and his boss decides to fire him right as they sit down to dinner, and somehow in this whole situation, his wife is the one that reacts in the way that is the least feasible. Van Gelder is upset that Barney would dare want to eat before being terminated, and leaves along with Dr. Viette.
I want to be treated right, that's all. Just because he has money doesn't mean he owns me.
But if you work for him, that does mean you should make sure the other employees don't end up dead, and you shouldn't be fucking the servants' daughters. I don't care how poetic you put it, you're clearly the asshole here. Dina lets it slip that she has feelings for this walking pile of refuse, shortly before he runs into the woman he's been screwing, and is sure to break her heart in the process. She cries to her mother about Barney, whom offers solace.
I want you to stay with your people.
Kinda hard when she's the only one in this movie with remotely tan skin. She tells her that Barney will never hurt her again, right before we get to see Barney waiting out in the jungle for Mr. Van Gelder to show up.
I've done a lot of good work for you.
Screwing your servants, getting your workers killed, and hitting on your wife, all in the same day, I might add. That wasn't easy, but I pulled it off. After Barney says Dina loves him, Van Gelder awkwardly punches the man, but a convenient snake happens to be nearby, or 30 feet away, hard to tell with these cuts, and Barney takes the opportunity to kill his boss. Yeah, that's the first thing he's done that I could remotely sympathize with. Barney heads over to tell Dina not that he just murdered her husband, but that it's just a very good idea that she leaves with him in the morning so that they may romantically escape from the jungle.
You'll be happy. I promise you. You'll be happy.
Even after you find out that I killed your husband. Now seriously, there's no reason at all why she wouldn't be able to connect the dots, but she, just doesn't seem to care. Lorena's mother, on the other hand, Al Long, isn't keen on letting Barney get away with murder, so she...
Cursed shall be Barney Chavez. He shall be like an animal that's haunt in the jungle.
Curses Barney to become a ravaging jungle beast? Considering all we know about him at this point, how the fuck are we supposed to be able to tell the difference? The next scene introduces us to Police Commissioner Taro, played by Lon Chaney Jr., the actor whom played the original Wolfman. He questions Barney, poorly.
Why don't you ask me if I killed Klaus Van Gelder? You know I had a quarrel with him. You got witnesses for that, haven't you?
I have, that's true. But the evidence I have is not strong enough to bring charges against you.
You're not supposed to tell him that! Tara questions the leaves found at the scene, though, and sends an officer with Al Long to search her room for the illegal plant. She makes no attempt to hide it, but does have an awful lot to say about it.
It words of sickness keeps away the evil spirit, brings money into the house.
And if you copy and paste this onto 15 comments within the next 5 minutes, your true love will call you in 3 days with good news. But if you don't, Friday night at 10:30, a zombie baby will jump out of the toilet and bite your nuts off. Somehow, this is enough to get the officer to leave the plant and not bother telling the commissioner it was found. Because if he did, the movie would be over far too soon. Thus, she has plenty of time to extract the poison from the leaves and provide Barney with a spiked drink on his wedding, which looks to just so happen to be the following day, and when he goes to sign the wedding papers, something strange happens. He turns black? His wife should be very happy about this. Barney runs off, but Dr. Viet follows him and finds his hand is perfectly fine, but Barney still feels it's a good time to launch completely into being an antisocial prick.
I'll send Dina in.
No, I don't want to see anyone.
You're sure you don't want to see him?
No. Now, leave me alone, will you?
All right.
He might have been onto something, as when he finally spends some time with his wife, it only leads to him making an even bigger ass out of himself.
You hear that? You hear that high sound? That's a bird with long red feathers.
That's not a bird, you're just next door to a dentist's office.
You hear them?
So he runs out into the jungle at night, which any Terraria player will tell you is a pretty bad idea, and we get our first big transformation scene as Barney turns into a... Wow. That looks like shit, even for 1951. He's found the next morning, suffering from fever and babbling incoherently.
The face. Face in the water. Face. Watch out!
Why does everyone scream, "watch out," during fever dreams?
Watch out. Watch out!
And besides, he was alone in the jungle. Who the hell was he talking to? Upon leaving, the doctor runs into Taro, and they make small talk about the legendary monsters of the jungle.
That's a famous jungle demon that tears living animals to shreds with its claws and then feeds upon them. Has been known to attack humans also.
You just described about 90% of the animals in the jungle. Could you maybe be a little more specific?
Someone will use this rumor to kill somebody. Blame it on the Sukharoth. It's happened before.
It has?
You mean someone ripped someone apart and ate them? They changed the subject to Taro's incompetence as a police commissioner.
But I know that Barney Chavez murdered Van Gelder. I know it emotionally. I should arrest that man and charge him with murder.
Why don't you?
Good question.
The case I have is not tight enough to get a conviction.
That's what an investigation is for, numbnuts!
Barney Chavez will be brought to justice. The jungle will see to that.
Well, the jungle wouldn't have to if you didn't fuck the initial investigation up so badly. Yeah, it was kind of necessary for the movie to continue, but that doesn't mean it made any more sense. Taro gets a call soon after of a death allegedly linked to the beast and brings the doctor along to investigate. And by investigate, I mean stick to their superstitious beliefs.
Was it the jaguar?
No. No, Doctor. It was huge and red.
Red?
Yes. It has a head like a man and teeth like an alligator.
What did I tell you, Doctor? The Sukharoth.
That it was.
I'm sorry, I thought he was describing the Kool-Aid Man. Back at home, Barney comes to and sees for himself just how bad the monkey suit looks in this movie. After this, we find Dina sleeping upside down in bed while fully clothed, and after she checks the door with a few bullets, we get a hint as to what the fuck is going on.
Dina! Dina, it's me. Here. Don't shoot.
Where's Mr. Chavez?
Out in the jungle. I haven't seen him since last night.
Well, it sure would have been interesting to see exactly why he ran off into the jungle immediately, but I'm sure leaving that little detail out is perfectly fine.
But I wish I knew what he was doing out there.
She decides the easiest way to find out is to get off her ass and actually check, discovering that the reason Barney hasn't come home is because he's caught in a bear trap. Of course, if she's anything like my ex, that's not a good enough reason. He should have chewed his leg off and limped his ass home. She was worried sick! She helps him out, and he gets patched up at the house, and he finally starts speaking somewhat sensibly, remembering that, yeah, he was intent on leaving this jungle just last week.
Let's go to Paris. Now, I've never been there. I'll buy you clothes in Paris, and then we'll go to London.
And I'll buy you clothes in London.
And then we'll go to America and buy clothes from China. But you can count on Al Long to keep the plot as stale as possible as she recasts the spell on Barney. Does this mean this movie is the true origin of buff timers? By morning, Barney is all set to sell the plantation, so all the important characters gather together in set 1 of 3.
I hope these are the final papers I must sign.
We do not sign the final papers.
That's right. I sign them. I'm the coroner.
Exactly.
Okay. That came the fuck out of nowhere. Viet notices something strange about Barney's eyes and goes off to tell Dina.
He looks to me like a man who's been poisoned.
Poison?
I'm sure of it. But all the symptoms seem to point to the fact that...
Wait here. I'll get him.
Now I've finally got all the panties to myself. But of course, by the time she gets back, we find out that Barney has yet again run off to the jungle. Off screen. Yeah, not like seeing him wrestle with his sanity would ever make for an interesting scene. Does Kurt even remember why people liked Wolfman so much? He also returns the next morning without us seeing even a hint of man-to-ape action, and now that it's awkwardly out of place, we finally get the scene of Barney falling into insanity.
Out there, in the jungle. Out there, everything's different. I seem changed. My hands, my eyes. I can see further than I've ever seen before. The smallest leaf on top of the highest tree. I can climb as if I had wings.
Well, thanks for letting us in on it. It's not like actually having seen any of that would have been remotely entertaining. After all, it's far more interesting for the audience to get these scenes of Barney paying off his old employees and Viet telling Dina what we've clearly established over the last hour, that Barney killed Van Gelder and obviously has been poisoned. Oh, and let's not forget a final scene of Al Long resetting the buff timer on Barney's curse. This leads to Barney running out to the jungle and Dina finally deciding to go after him this time, and lucky for her, the doctor just so happens to come by with his rifle and Taro in tow.
It's the Pays de Gouin plant. Al Long had it all the time.
And if we had bothered to do something about it, this movie could have been only 20 minutes long.
Dina must have followed Barney into the jungle.
Right.
Well, how can we find them at nighttime?
I know my jungle, Doctor. Out there, my senses are those of an animal.
Oh, sweet! Lon Chaney Jr. is going to transform into the Wolfman! And after such a long, boring run for this movie, a monster brawl is really going to make up for it. They head into the jungle, and the climax is already underway.
What's that?
And to all those who say that the transformation was all in his head, please explain how she shot him twice and he didn't die, and why she screamed in terror. He then... You know what? I'm not even going to touch that. The Doctor and Commissioner shoot blindly into the brush, and lucky for them, manage to take out Barney without a single bullet landing in Dina. Barney limps over to the water, and we get our psychological twist ending, which doesn't make sense considering what we saw 20 seconds ago. Anyone gonna pick him up? You could probably still save his life if you get him to a hospital soon enough. Or you could just let him drown in 1 foot of water. Assholes. Well, that was Bride of the Gorilla, and I've seen better. As far as monster transformation movies go, Bride of the Gorilla is pretty bland, with the monster in question not only being incredibly simple, but hardly having any screen time to speak of. Yes, less is more, but this has hardly anything at all, and the payoff really isn't worth it. The main problem with this movie is that after the first 10 minutes, nothing new really happens. It's an hour-long movie that somehow feels like it drags on with unnecessary padding, but honestly, what it really needs is more sets, and more variety as to what happens. Barney turning into a gorilla and running into the jungle 5 times isn't nearly as interesting as turning into a gorilla in 5 different locations, but I digress. The acting is good, though, and the dialogue isn't too clunky, but even for 1951, there's a lot to be desired. And considering the obligatory screaming woman scene, the psychological twist to this story ends up coming off inconsistent and contrived, giving Bride of the Gorilla a disappointing 2 domestic animals out of 5. As a public domain movie, of course you could track it down and watch it at your leisure for free, but honestly, there are many better films to spend your time with, even in the public domain. Thank you all for watching. I've been Dr. Shado, and remember, investigate a fucking murder! Jeez.
There was a hot time down in jungle land. That night the whole menagerie, they got together, organized a band. You never heard such melody. The baboon, he made a monkey all to himself. He beat the hippo for a drum. As if the lions all began to roar, and the hyena cried with fun. Listen to that jungle band, ain't it grand? Listen to the rang-a-tang, hear those jingles, jingle, jungle, jungle, jingles, listen.
We're only 40 miles apart. That's practically door to door in this part of the world.
Well, I see you're getting service in your house.
Here's to good service.